Everybody,
everyone.
sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the second edition of Thrive Haryana, the tech startup ecosystem meet. On behalf of IMAI and all of you, I welcome Mr. Vivek Bhargava, CEO, Dan Performance Group. Welcome, sir. Without any further ado, I would request you to please take this opportunity to address our audience and please take this discussion forward.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Welcome, all of you. I think we are in a very, very exciting position today as a country and as the industry. This next 10 years is going to be the golden decade in a way for digital businesses in India and for entrepreneurs in India. So when they say that there are 100 unicorns that will be created in the next 5 years, which are these billion-dollar companies, people forget that means it will also create 10,000 or more $100 million companies and lakhs of $10 million companies. So the whole ecosystem is changing. Uh, COVID has given this tailwind to the entire industry because of which one can build global companies out of India very, very quickly, better than ever before. I think this creates an opportunity for the whole ecosystem rather than only one side of the ecosystem. So it creates an opportunity for entrepreneurs that, of course, they can make a lot of money. It creates an opportunity for government because it creates this whole thing which will create millions of jobs and actually change the economic status of a lot of people in India. So automatically, it's very, very big and large opportunity for the government. Obviously, investor like me, I'm invested in 20 companies, and I think it's a great opportunity for the investors also because the exponential returns one gets from digital businesses is not going to happen in any other format per se. Lastly, I think I would say that digital has given India a sort of a competitive advantage in a global world because today is almost democratized, or they say geography is history. Today, you can build a global firm from scratch from India without actually having multiple offices. So I think it also gives you, if you want to go into a physical industry, replicating a store somebody has or going and setting up offices in multiple countries becomes very difficult. But because of COVID, in a way, there is a tailwind, and you can actually establish a global company out of India very, very quickly. And I think all of the entrepreneurs should actually plan for it. I think this requires some change in the mindset of all of us. It requires a change of mindset of entrepreneurs. So I think the first mindset change of entrepreneurs has to be that how do we build product companies rather than services companies? So let me give you an example. Uh, if you take the last 30 years, there was this need of services companies. We came from a position of scarcity, and services companies have a much larger rate of success. So I think building services companies like Infosys, TCS was essential for the country, and that's what we've done. But the next 10 years, there is an opportunity and a need to create product companies. So let me give you an example, right? That if today we are very, very proud of what Infosys has created, but there are 250,000 people in Infosys and the market cap is $42 billion. If you take Microsoft today, as 150,000 people, market cap is $1,600 billion. So the last 30 years, there was a need to create Infosys, TCS kind of companies. The next 10 years, there is a need to create a Google or Facebook or an Amazon or, you know, Microsoft kind of companies. And I think all of us entrepreneurs in my 20 company portfolio that I invested in, every one of them is a product company. So I think earlier when I started the business first time around, I was not getting capital for a product company because it's a lot riskier. But today there is a capital available and the product companies can create an exponential growth, which services companies find it difficult to do. So I think we have this unique opportunity. It is going to be a tough journey. There's one quote that has always motivated me. That quote is that entrepreneurs live a few years of their life like most people won't, so that they can live the rest of their life like most people can't. So basically, I've seen that it is a tough journey. Building a product company, raising capital, taking it global, all these things, it requires a lot of time and effort. And I think if entrepreneurs who are willing to give that effort, I think can gain exponential returns for the efforts. I think at this point in time, I look at it from this point of view that the mindset has to change for even from the government's point of view and the parents' point of view. I was fortunate enough to visit Israel a few years ago, and there I read up this book called Startup Nation. And the interesting part was that a mother in Israel actually wants the first preference for their children to is to take up entrepreneurship. Only if they fail in entrepreneurship, then she's okay with them taking up a job. So basically, the whole culture is that entrepreneurship is the first option. So 20, 30 years ago, our parents wanted us to be safe and secure and at least make sure that our ends are met. At that point in time, we encourage everybody to basically take a very secure job. But today, I think we can give our children wings. They can at least attempt, they say that in great attempts, it is glorious even to fail. So at least we can give them the wings to try. And I think that cultural mindset can be very, again, very useful. The last cultural mindset that needs to be done, even at the government level, at the whole ecosystem level. Because if you ask me today, if you want to build a global company out of India, there are so many opportunities out there, but the whole mindset has to be that entrepreneurs will drive the future of the country. They'll create jobs, they'll create wealth. They are the ones who are going to give it back to the country. How do we create systems that basically encourage entrepreneurship? So I'll give you a simple example. Right now, we 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 were part of the startup program of the policy of the government. But if I open an office in US, it's considered as me taking equity in a US company. So then suddenly I lose my startup status. But the fact of the matter is, I'm a startup and I want to build this company into 20 countries, but being based out of India. So how do we actually look at things by which we can create a multiplier or dialogue and really help some of the entrepreneurs and people like me who are second time entrepreneurs? We have to figure out how do we take feedback and create a thing where we can create these large global companies out of India. So it has been a fascinating experience for me, the first time around as entrepreneurship, and I feel I'm very, very happy with the initiative that IMA and Government of Haryana has taken with Heartron and the things they're doing. Uh, at this note, I think I've seen, I think Mr. AK Singh and Mr. Saket Kumar both have joined us. So I'll probably hand it over to Nishta and then I can do a small introduction for them. Nishta, you want to come over back in again?
Yes, sir. Actually, we're just waiting for the Mr. Rajneesh Mittal to join from Dr. Saket's office.
Okay.
Uh, I think Mr. Singh would not be able to join at the moment.
Okay. So, okay. So, do you want me to continue?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So I think I would like to share some learnings about entrepreneurship, which I feel are very, very critical if all of us want to create something, global or something larger. So I think the first thing is that entrepreneurship is about, I believe, is about burning your boats. So I'll give you my own example. I used to work in a family business, and my father had said that, don't leave the family business because if you leave, then you will not be able to join in. Start a company, appoint a general manager, start attending the office a few hours a day. If it takes off, then you leave the family business. But fortunately, I had read books where they talk of this concept called burning your boats. So there was this general who went to an island and he realized that he had 10,000 people he had taken for war. The island had 30,000 people. And basically, there were chances that they would get massacred. So what he advised his general to do was to burn the boats. So now this thing is there was no way out. The only way out was to basically conquer the island, and they did. So this concept of burning the boats is when I left the family business or whatever thing you plan to leave, don't be in two minds. I think if you burn your boats, the chances of you succeeding will be very, very high. Because when I went through tough times, if I had this door that I could go back to the family business, I would have definitely gone back to the family business. Because I didn't leave that option open, automatically allowed me to keep on persisting. And they say that money grows on the trees of persistence. A lot of times, these are skill sets like resilience, persistence. These skill sets are not taught in schools and colleges. They have to be learned yourself. Uh, Second thing is, I believe as an entrepreneur, it's very important that we keep learning. I think entrepreneurship is probably one of the most creative professions in the world. People don't realize it, but entrepreneurs have to be creative almost every day. Every day there is a problem to be solved, and one has to be very innovative about solving that problem. So the way you increase your creativity is by learning as many things as you can learn across various walks of life. Because the way we are living is no longer about digital as a marketing or a communication medium. Digital is the age we're living in. Digital plays a role of a catalyst across every single facet of our organization. And because it changes so rapidly, one has to keep on learning all the time. And I feel that the more things you learn, the more it connects the dots. And let me give you a few examples which will elaborate the point. Everybody's heard of the story of Steve Jobs and how, in his talk called Stay Hungry, Stay Foolish, he talked about this incident where he learned calligraphy, and the calligraphy allowed him to create sort of the first interface of Macintosh. And they say the beautiful fonts that we see today in computers is because of a side class that Steve Jobs did in his college. So sometimes what happens is that when you learn more and more things, the dots connect and they make you a superior you, a superior lawyer, superior doctor, superior leader, superior entrepreneur, superior everything. So the more and more things you learn, I've seen in my life, I've learned 25 different things, and each one of them have connected dots eventually and made me a superior entrepreneur or a leader or a speaker or all the things that is my core competencies. Yeah, sure. Mr. Let me know when you want to. Uh,
Sure, sir.
yeah, so I'll.
So I would like to welcome Mr. Dhawan, consultant to Department of Industry and Commerce, Government of Haryana. Welcome, sir. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, ma'am. Me and Mr. Mittal in this
Welcome, Mr.
point of Haryana.
Good morning, everyone. Myself, Rajneesh Mittal, on the behalf of Department of Industries and Commerce, wishes best of luck to all the budding entrepreneurs, startups. Are always with the startup companies. We always promote their growth. We also always wish their growth. And I also wish Vivek ji for the second entrepreneur and doing very well. And we wish that he will go to the top and will make a startup a very flourishing company in the country. Now, Mr. Dhaval will tell something about our proposed Haryana employment and enterprise policy, which is going to be introduced soon in the state.
Good morning.
Can't be.
Am I audible? One book
Yeah.
is about Stay Hungry, Stay Foolish. Rashmi Mansal one. It's quite motivational for the people, for the new budding entrepreneurs. Second is about Startup Nation, which apparently is I would call it also a menu or a learning for the government or public life to grow, how we can really help startups grow as well. So with these two things and couple of other say aspects and the knowledge base which is available in building startup ecosystem, as we have understood that government in Haryana, there are many startups and the kind of funding which we have got, even during COVID period, the VC funding to all startups are actually mind-boggling, blowing in one way or other. We hope that this will continue. We hope the VC and mentorship community will keep coming us. Many of our services have been recognized by Government of India as best practice in startup domain, like prior experience, like mechanism for resolving grievances of startups, anything, you know. And even in the new policy, we offered different kind of incentives. It starts from entire life cycle of startups and all those incentives which are applicable in all other types of industry, be it MSME, large, mega, ultra mega. They're all will be available for startups as well, be it interest subsidy, be it other SGST related components. This policy is going to be launched soon. So I would suggest that we will look at the details when this policy is notified, finally and formally. We also plan to have world-class incubators available and also like to give it to every district. Every district should have momentum for startups and enjoy the momentum of startups by all our local people. We are also offering some kind of financial assistance under the development programs, EDPs, which will really help startups to grow and have a seed money step up. This is, and we also focus on a couple of startups who can come up in various other fields. We have seen startups coming in fintech and all fields. We also want them to come, encourage them to come in other fields, explore other fields, can help in our own issue resolution with the government and people. Thank you very much. Sir. I'll give it to Mittalji.
Thanks. Government of Haryana Industries Department is very keen for the growth of the startups in the states. Already we have 13 incubators in the state of Haryana. Gurgaon is one district of the state in which there is a very good scope for the startups. We wish the new startup should come to this district and will start flourishing their business, which will be best for the state as well as the entrepreneurs. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, Nishta.
Thank you, sir. Vivek, sir, if you would like to please continue. The
Sure.
session. Yes.
And okay, sure. So on this note, I think at least let me give you a little background of Thrive One, and basically this concept started last year. The first Thrive was in Gurugram last year, and I think it was a very interesting event where we were able to get thought leaders, entrepreneurs, investors, mentors, academicians all under the same umbrella, and shared their vision of how startups need to evolve all over the world. The conference that we've started, IMAI and Government of Haryana has started, is all focused on how do we celebrate the best of the startups in India? How do we bring them together? And how do we actually help them either get incubation? How do we actually help them tap the potential that they have in themselves to create global companies out of India? And we would like to expose them to as many entrepreneurs, mentors, investors possible to help them achieve the business outcome they desire from the startup. The Haryana state government has a startup policy in 2017 that it is committed to working to create exponential companies in the Indian startup system and encourage innovation and entrepreneurship at scale. The government has also taken a noteworthy step of promoting entrepreneurial culture in the state through Hatron Multi-Skill Development Center in Gurugram. It's one of the best initiatives that has been created in the country. And I think today we are in this very interesting part of the world where entrepreneurship is now beginning to get celebrated. So when I was talking with the cultural mindset they were talking about, I think that is the most important thing, that how do we get to celebrate entrepreneurs? I still come from this background where when I was a child, when 8, 9 years old, and I would be playing cricket in my building, without trying to sound condescending, but we were taught when we were 6 years old that if the guy is rich, uska father smuggler hoega. So it's all almost like, it seems funny and now, but the fact of the matter is it was impossible to conceive 35, 40 years ago that a person is rich and he's made money through a legitimate manner. But today we are living in a world where all of us see there's so many awesome entrepreneurs in India who have become extremely wealthy. They've created wealth, but we know for sure that they have created this wealth completely through a life of integrity. So I think that is the biggest thing, that how do we create this culture where we respect entrepreneurship in the country? And it has to be done at all levels. It has to be done at where we encourage our children to become entrepreneurs. The government encourages entrepreneurs and doesn't look at them with eyes of suspiciousness. The entire bureaucrat community, including the income tax, looks at it from a positive point of view, instead of saying that, okay, every person who has got a certain income or tax has to come under scrutiny. So all the time, right? So I think it's very important that the cultural mindset has to happen, that we have reached a phase in our lives of the country that today wealth is possible to be created without any act which is on the side of is against integrity, right? So I think that mindset change is what the country needs. Entrepreneurs, I think, as I was talking about, creating that product culture is very important. The learnability, I would like to complete my story of that. The more and more things you learn, the more better you will become as an entrepreneur. So let's say I've been learning mentalism. So mentalism, I learned, it basically taught me, and it gives you a lot of higher recall value. I'm in sales, so people remember you more if you guess their password. I learned stand-up comedy. It makes me a better speaker when I'm speaking. So automatically, even in a party, I can make people laugh, because of which, again, it creates that ability to make more friends and more people remember you. So every single thing that you learn, even like last 4 months, I've been learning Urdu. Just learning Urdu and writing sher o shairi has given me so much clarity in my mind of what I should be doing in decision making. So let me give you one example of a share I wrote and how it helped me in decision making. So I wrote that उम्र निकल गई सच के रास्ते पे, संजीदगी आपके एक झूठ ने ले आया हमको आखिरी मोड़ पे. So basically, I spent my entire life leading a life of integrity, and inadvertently, shyly, demurely, you said one lie, and now both of us have come to this dead end where we have no future together. So, what I look at it is that leading a life of integrity is not adequate. Having a business partner, having colleagues, having a company, having your boss, having your family, every single person that you associate with, if they don't have the same values of integrity, then one of them could bring you to a dead end. So I become extremely careful of people who I partner with, who I do business with, who I work for, who I employ. And this becomes a very integral part of the way I'm trying to build the company. So I think what the more and more things you learn, you will be surprised that how it benefits you in becoming better at what you want to do. I think, as I said about innovation and creativity, at all points of time, I think today almost all industries are going to go get some disruption. So that there are two ways to look at life, right? One is look at life that, okay, COVID has happened, now what do I do? The other thing is that now COVID that has happened, which are the industries, which are the companies that is basically going to get the tailwind, and how do I actually take steps in the right direction? So just imagine, right? You had a competitor who was so far ahead of you, so far ahead of you that it was impossible to catch up with him. But now look at it, what COVID has done, right? Everybody has been brought up to the starting line all over again. So the fact of the matter is now you have a bigger chance of actually, beating him than you would have had earlier, because now everybody's in the starting line. Everybody has been forced to stop. So I think the way you look at life, the way you look at businesses, I think it's very, very critical to have at least clarity in your head that, okay, how am I going to use the current situation and sort of use it to my advantage? Because it's always easy to complain that, I didn't get good cards. So if you're playing, cards and you didn't get, the sequence, or you didn't get the flush, or you didn't get the three aces in your hand, but the fact of the matter is this is what you were dealt. Make do with it, because you can cry as much as you want, but your cards are not going to change. So the fact of the matter is people who are able to accept the cards they have in their life, and they are the ones who actually persist. So over the last 14 years, we went through at least almost two bankruptcies. First was when the dot-com bust had happened, and second was when the financial bust had happened. But we persisted. We kept on coming back, kept on coming back. So in fact, an entrepreneur was asked that, how did you succeed? So he says that I jumped at the right opportunities. He says, but like, how did you know which were the right opportunities? So he said that I didn't. I kept jumping. So it's important that all of us have this philosophy of keeping jumping, right? So I spoke a little bit about integrity. I would like to elaborate this a little bit more. They did a study, and they came out with what are the skill sets entrepreneurs need to succeed. And the study was done over a 20 or 30-year period. So when they wrote down what are the things that has helped them succeed. So there's obviously hard work, there was education, there was friendship, there's network, there was family, there's all these different skill sets, including skill sets luck. The interesting part was luck came number 17 in it. So when you look at a 30-year period, actually, everybody gets almost equal amount of luck. When you look at a 1-year period, yes, some people are more lucky than the others. When you look at a 30-year period, everybody got some opportunities, which people can call it lucky. So luck doesn't come in the first 10. And integrity actually featured among the top 1 or 2. Basically, they said was that leading a life of integrity allowed them to build successful businesses and become rich. And when you look at it from a 30-year period, I think it's very, very critical, because the compounding that happens on integrity is phenomenal. These are exponential things, right? So what happens is 1 becomes 2, becomes 4, becomes 8, becomes 16. The bigger reputation you have, it may not give you immediate money first year, but over a period of time it compounds, and then finally you get a premium for everything you sell. So it's very, very critical to build up these skill sets, which are not being taught in schools and colleges. These skill sets can be as skill sets like communication, creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, resilience, learnability. And I think the more and more skill sets we all learn as entrepreneurs, I think we'll be able to build superior businesses. One other thing that I would like to cover is that I think a lot of times we are conditioned to basically look at a business model and then build up a similar business model. So I was lucky enough to do this course called Disruptive Strategy from Harvard, where Professor Clay Christensen is the teacher of the course. I did that course in March online, and he had passed away in Jan, so just 2 months before I started the course. One of the most wonderful professors Harvard has ever produced. He wrote a book called Innovator's Dilemma. And one of the key things that he said about disruption is that disruption cannot happen from within. There are three components of a business. There is resources, there is processes, and there is a profit formula. A lot of times you have to innovate in all these three pillars of businesses. If you do what people have done in the past, it was built 20 years ago, it was built 30 years ago, it was built 10 years ago. That's not going to survive the future. We have to look at it in the current situation of things. What changes do I need to make to that business in order for it to work? Right? Let's take an example. When we were looking at this partnership in the new company that we started, we're trying to connect the ad tech world with the martech world. And that's a very, very big problem to solve. Because what happens is that today, whatever information you collect from the consumer in the advertising stack, it doesn't get transferred when person downloads the app. And whatever you do with an ATM for a bank, it doesn't get transferred to the advertising world. If you can connect both these systems, then you will create efficiencies across both these things. And then we said, okay, now can we innovate on the profit formula also? How do we charge companies? Instead of charging them a media fee, can we take a share of the profit? So I think all of us who are trying to attempt building companies, is very, very important that we look at new profit formulas, new innovations in existing businesses, and how it's going to get disrupted. Let me give you one other interesting example of a company that I funded, and how, because of COVID, they've just suddenly completely pivoted the business model. And if they had a potential of X, like 3 months ago, I think the potential now has become 1000X. Right? So this company was a simple company. They were aggregating co-working spaces. So the last 2 years, they built this software that allows you to aggregate co-working spaces. So every employee gets a PIN code, they can walk to the office. So you don't have a central office. Every employee gets an office close to their house. But now we realize that the software that we built over the last 2 years can be very easy for office management. So let's say you have 1,000 people, but you have only 200 seats of an office. You can license our app in a way. First 1 month is free to all 1,000 people. And then what happens is that they can choose which days they want to attend office. So everybody gets about 7-8 days in the office. So every person could reduce their office space by half or 1/3 and still manage it very, very efficiently. And then you would know exactly the number of seats you need. So this pivot suddenly has created this larger than life opportunity for the company. So I think it's very important. All of us have to keep on thinking, how do we look at new opportunities in existing businesses before our business gets disrupted? Because with exponential technology, that's what the challenge is. Something that was one yesterday, in a 1 year period, one could have become 2, 8, 16, 32, and within a year, it's become larger than life. So if we identify what are the challenges our industry is going to face because of these exponential technologies sort of conquering the world, I think we'll be able to prepare for those disruptions and sort of either face them or use that as a tailwind and use exponential technologies to disrupt other industries and create awesome companies. Yeah. Yeah, Nishna, you want me to continue or somebody else would like to speak?
No, sir, no one else is joining. So it's all up to you. If you would like to close, we can do it now, sir.
Yeah, I think, I can close.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us here today and doing the opening remarks. It was an absolute pleasure to hear you. Special thanks to our partners and attendees for supporting the event. I request all the attendees to please visit the exhibition during the break. The next session commences at 10:40 a.m. Stay tuned. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.